Some seasons in life, you feel like you're just standing still. No progress, no reward, just silence. You're doing the work, but there's no movement. And if you're like me, those seasons make you feel like a failure. But what if I told you the silence isn't punishment, it's preparation? This chapter is about what most men overlook: hibernation, the hidden seasons that prepare you for greatness. Because if you can learn to recognize, respect, and respond to seasons God designed, you won't just survive the stillness. You'll thrive. You'll come out stronger, sharper, and more unshakable than ever. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." God didn't create a nonstop grind. He created a rhythm, a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to tear down, a time to build up. Wisdom is knowing what season you're in and honoring it. And one of the best ways to know what season that you're in is to take time. Get away from everybody and everything like Jesus did in the Bible. We see this example quite a bit. Right before key moments in his life, or right before big things that he was about to do, he would get away with his father, with time with his father. And I think that's the best way to begin to even understand what season that you're in. Learning how to escape and dialogue. God, what do you say about this? Why is this happening like this? What can I do different? The Bible says if you ask for wisdom, he will give it to you. Let me tell you about a season where I had to learn this the hard way. I was employed doing the job that I love to do. I was doing air traffic control. I was an air traffic controller in the military for 12 years. I was an instructor for air traffic control. I love air traffic control. However, I took a job with a company that promised the moon. So I left this job that I love to do. The pay, the title, the future, it looked like a perfect fit. But not long after signing on, the deal changed drastically. They shifted my schedule from 9 to 5 to 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then on call throughout the day. No raise, more stress, more responsibility. It felt like that Darth Vader line from Empire Strikes Back. You know, I'm altering the deal. Pray, I do not alter it any further. Sorry, it's May the 4th, so I thought I'd throw a little Star Wars reference in there. Like and comment about this so I know that you're actually listening. At first, I tried to force it to work. More effort, more hustle, more grind, but all the striving left me empty. One morning, exhausted before the day began, I sensed a shift deep in my spirit. Stop striving, start trusting. I stopped fighting the season and started respecting it. I started taking each day and using it as a honing stone on an edge of what can I use this uncomfortable time to shape and remove from my character so I can be a better leader. Instead of trying to force the door open, I chose to be faithful where I was. Not long after, God opened a door I never saw coming. A job that honored my time, provided well for my family, and gave me peace at home. That season of hibernation wasn't failure, it was formation. Let me tell you another time. This is more personal. So when I left that company I just referenced and walked into this new dream job, man, I hit the door running. I was in there, I was building culture, I was building friendship, I was building leadership standards, I was leading the way. I was getting highly recognized very early on. But I didn't recognize the season that I was in because even before I was ready for promotion, something inside me said, you should be promoted. So I started putting my name up for promotions, for advancements and stuff like that. And I would get these interviews, I would knock it out of the park, and I would get feedback from these interviews saying, hey, we love love your client. We love your culture, your leadership style. We love the way you act. We love everything about you. In fact, there's nothing that we can tell you that you need to improve on, but we're just going to go with another candidate that has more of the company specific experience. And I heard that 4 times in a row, right? And that made me to do some internal soul searching. And what I discovered is that it's not always from glory to glory to glory. Sometimes you got to earn your keep. Sometimes you got to do your time. Sometimes you got to go in there and just be faithful. Be faithful with what the Lord has given you so he can give you much more. And on top of that, I talk a lot about mentoring, and I'll have a video on that later. But I reached out to one of my mentors that was high up in the company, and I asked him, what's your advice, or what do you think? And he said, let me tell you this, and I'm only telling you this because I respect you and I know what you're capable of. You're getting this reputation that you're trying to put the cart in front of the horses. You're not showing humility, you're not showing honor, and you think you should skip the line. Don't apply for another role for the next 6 or 8 months. And I took it and I listened to it, and now that 6 or 8 months are coming up and people are starting to bring me roles, and I'm being able to pick which one that I want instead of just being so quick to jump the rocket ship to ride to the top of the corporate ladder. Patience, knowing the season, and then reacting when the doors open. That's the ticket. And if you need biblical proof that hibernation seasons are where the greatest are forged, look no further than Joseph. I love the story of Joseph. Joseph had a dream, but then came a long winter. Joseph could also learn a little steps in humility. God gave him the dream, and instead of being humble about it, he may have went about it the wrong way and started bragging about it to his brothers and his dad, which was hurtful, and it could cause pain and strife. And what ended up happening, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and left to be forgotten in prison and die as an imprisoned man, betrayed by his closest people, and just to sit in prison and rot. He could have let the bitterness rule him, but he stayed faithful. He worked hard. He sharpened his skills. He served in obscurity. Those hidden years, they weren't wasted. They were preparation. Cal Newport, in A Deeper Work, writes, meaningful results require long periods of focused, distraction-free time. That was Joseph's life. And when Pharaoh called him, Joseph didn't show up. He was ready. And his hidden season prepared him for a global mission. And his faithfulness didn't just save his life, it saved his family, and it saved his nation. God always takes care of his sons. Yes, you. Even in the darkest hours, in the darkest times, he takes care of us. If you need more examples of how seasons and hibernation are important, let's look at the modern thinkers are just now catching up to what the biblical truths are. Adam Grant says, productivity is not about being a workhorse. It's about being a smart horse. Think strategically, rest deliberately, work intentionally. Are you a workhorse or a smart horse? James Clear in Atomic Habits reminds us, change that seems small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. Compound interest. If you're not familiar with it, do some research. That's how wealth is built. Wealth can be wisdom, it can be financial. There's many different definitions of wealth, but they're built through compounding efforts. Cal Newport, again, nails it. If you don't produce, you won't thrive, no matter how skilled or how talented you are. But if you produce without depth, then you'll burn out. That's the wisdom of hibernation. Pull back, refocus, prepare. Don't just do, develop, and then rest and see how good the Lord is and how faithful He is. Let me shift for a moment and tell you about a friend of mine, Joedy. He's one of the most real, hardworking, battle-tested men I know. He's been through a lot of ups and downs, changes, waiting, loss, rebuilding. He's also a Marine, like a Marine's Marine. He's one of the toughest dudes I know. He's definitely surgical. But what I've always admired about him is how he handles the slow seasons. I respect Joedy so much that I asked him some questions and he gave me some great answers for the listeners. And I wanted to include it on chapter 4 of Hibernation. Ready? I asked him once, what was the hardest stretch of his life? And he told me about a time when everything slowed down. Work was uncertain, finances were tight, no big win on the horizon, and yet he kept showing up quietly and consistency. That's hibernation in motion. Joedy told me he was putting in all the work, but nobody was seeing it. And that hit me, because that's the lie the world tells us. If no one sees it, it doesn't matter. But Joedy proved the opposite. What you build in silence is what you stand on later. And I met him at my current role, and he's been building in silence for the past 3 years, and now he's one of the most respected project and program managers that I work with. It's so cool. Joedy told me that there was a moment he thought his breakthrough was coming. The door slammed shut. Job gone, opportunity gone, but he didn't spiral. He recalibrated. He didn't force it. He refocused. That's why hibernation produces resilience. There's a specific example where he had been lining up this next opportunity. He'd been working off the books for this department that he wanted to go to. But there was an emergency in his current department, and he was tasked with fixing. Jody's a fixer. Put out the fire. So he put a pause on what he wanted to do, what he thought he was going to be doing, midstream, turned direction, put out the fire, built more connections, built more direction. And now he set himself up that when it's time for his next position, he'll have the pick of the litter. And so now, after all that, he is aligned for something bigger and better, more suitable, that lines up with his skill set, but only because he didn't burn himself out trying to force his way through the winter. He rode the season with grit and wisdom. When I finished asking Joedy the questions, I asked him what he would tell a younger man grinding through a slow season. He said, don't freak out, don't quit. Sometimes the slow grind is the exact thing building your base. Brother, that's the kind of voice men need to hear. They need that kind of voice, even without saying God's name. Joedy lived a principle God designed. Jody's an awesome man. He leads by example, and he knows how to negotiate and navigate through seasons in life. He didn't learn it overnight, but he learned it through patience and perseverance and resilience. Let's have some reflective questions. Let me ask you this today. What season are you in right now? Are you in a building season? Are you in a planting season? A reaping season? Or hibernation season? Think about that. And think about how you've navigated in the past through these seasons. What you've done to try to fix it or get through it or make it less painful. Are you pushing too hard in a season meant for rest? Sometimes for me, the hardest thing to do is to rest. I'm a doer. I'm a fixer. I'm a builder. But the greatest growth is through rest. It's kind of like weightlifting. If you don't take a rest day, you can never see results. You'll see some results, I should say, but not the results you're capable of. When you work out, when you pump an iron, getting swole, you're tearing your muscles, making little rips in your muscles. And then when they grow back stronger. But they need time to heal. They need rest. And it's just like that in life. Are you treating waiting like wasting? When you're waiting for your next big thing, you could be reading. You could be journaling. You could be writing. You could be creating a company, a solution that the world needs. You could create the next big thing instead of wasting the time scrolling through non-educational or non-like building Instagram reels or YouTube feeds that don't feed the mind. They actually are like a parasite that make you feel drained after you watch them. What would shift if you honored your current season instead of resenting it? Every season has a reason under heaven, and it's ordained by God. So remember that. Brother, men, hear me. Hibernation is not punishment. It's preparation. The roots you grow in silence are the same ones that will hold you when the storm comes. Honor your current season. Don't try to skip it. Build in it and trust. God will take care of his sons. If this message is something that you'd like to hear more about, or you're interested in my steps and how I can navigate through the seasons, like, subscribe, and comment, please. Also, you hear me talk a lot about God and a lot about Jesus. If you've never met them and you don't know and you'd like to hear more about them, please like, comment, leave your email, leave a question, and I'd love to answer it. I'd love to walk through that with you. Stay sharp, be faithful, be still, and let's go to work, men.